Hi, my friends. I hope you're doing well. I'm Meredith with Soulnavigation, your evolutionary astrologer, here with such an important and vital video for you because I'm going to take you all through the houses. And today we are going to go through houses 1 through 12. So sit back with me and enjoy learning from this video because it's going to have a lot of gold mines in it for you. Let's dive in. First, I need to explain to you that the signs in which your planets are very, very important. But the houses are equally as important, and you can only know where your houses are if you have your birth time. That's why I cry myself to sleep at night when I have a loved one in my life and I don't know their birth time. So I asked you in my last video, whose chart did you want me to look at? And I got such great answers. And I'm going to use, going forward, I'm going to use a famous person's chart, maybe in every single video. But today I decided to use Kobe Bryant. I just, his life and his death is just fascinating, but I'm not going to do a chart reading. I'm just going to use him as an example so we can collectively see where his planets are. Now, I got to give you a little reminder. So while I put Kobe's chart up here, I want to give you a little reminder about what the different planets actually mean, and I'm only going to give you a sound bite. I want you to try to remember what the meaning of each planet brings to unlocking the secret code inside of you. Remember, you're not just your sun sign, you are the amalgamation of your entire chart. And there are 40,000 different things to see in your chart. And by the way, what house your planets are in doesn't even matter about the sign, can tell you so much about you. So if you have Pluto in the 12th house or Pluto in the first house, it doesn't even matter what sign it's in. Just that alone speaks volumes about you. That's how important the houses are. The houses are like the way in which that planet is going to operate. How is it going to actually move or be activated? Okay, it shows you the arena, the subject matter, the stage in which it must express itself. Now, if you don't know your birth time, but you resonate with a house, that's meaningful. Pay attention to that, because that probably means that you've got personal planets there. So this is a quick recap on what each of the planets mean in your chart. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about when you have a magnitude of these planets in the houses 1 through 12, what does it say about you? So wherever you have the sun in whatever house, right? The sun is basically the hero that lives inside of you. And you are on a hero's journey. The hero happens to be you. And this is your essence. This is your ego, your life force energy. The sun is by far the most significant planet in the astrological wheel because it is your vitality, your essence. When you die, you shed this body and your soul has an essence to it. That essence lives eternally. That's why I'm an evolutionary astrologer, because I believe in the eternal life of the soul. The soul never dies. So in my company, I created a slogan that says, the soul craves the truth and will settle for nothing less. What I mean by my slogan is the soul will demand and command, or your sun sign will demand and command that you express it and live it out authentically. and truthfully. So the soul, the sun sign, has the massive gravitational pull around the essence of you. It will show you your own hero that lives inside of you. Your sun sign is far more than just your personality. It is your soul's entire essence and vitality. It is basically the life inside of you. So the life inside of this body is my sun sign. Okay, the moon, very interesting. You know, Stephen talks about the moon being your supreme need, your reigning need, and it goes way beyond the emotions that you feel inside your body. Okay, it goes way beyond. And a lot of astrologers are going to talk to you about, oh, this is your emotional being. This is, you know, what you feel. Oh my God, it goes so beyond that. Just go to infinity and beyond with that description. But it is our hidden self, our deepest self. It is our instincts, our instinctual emotional reactions. It has no IQ. It only has reactions and feelings and that take no time to process. So they bubble up instinctively inside of us. So if you saw a cub running at you and you knew there was a mother bear behind this cub, the thing inside of you that would jump, that's your moon. That's not your soul. And that's not even your Mars. How you would fight with it would be your Mars. But the feeling like that, the jolting feeling that you didn't even have time to process, that's your moon. So it's our instincts. It's how we crave being nurtured, and it's how we were nurtured, and it is how we will nurture. Now, nurture, I feel nurture goes beyond love. Nurture is how will I care about you, right? How will I interact with you emotionally is my moon. So whatever house your moon is, it's critical to know how it wants to be expressed and in which way it wants to be expressed. Mercury is your mind, the way you speak. It's also the tone of your voice. Do you have a melodic voice? Do you have a lovely voice? Do you have a rough and gruff voice? Do you have a raspy voice, right? So it is the melody and tone and cadence of your voice. It's your perspective. It's your mind. It's what you want to think about. It's how you talk. It's also how you listen. Venus is our value system, love and money. It's our relationship to money. It's our relationship to loving something. It's all the sweet things in life. It's your relationship to the goodness in life, if you will, okay? It is also, though, let's go a little deeper because I like deep astrology. We do deep astrology here, right? It is your value system and your self-esteem and your self-confidence. So what house your Venus is in will show you where and how you will develop your value system, your self-esteem. It is how and where you will also find love and how you will find prosperity. By the way, this is my prosperity charm. Oh, I hope you can see this. It's so beautiful. Look at that. It is just so gorgeous. I had to wear it today. These are my prototypes, and get ready because my Soulnavigation store is about to be launched. And I've got all different kinds of charms. These charms, oh my God, they're just exquisite. Okay, more about that later. I just wanted to tell you I was wearing my Venus prosperity charm today. So Mars is your life force energy. It's your animation. It's the way in which you move, right? It's like how you move. It's your animation, how you use your physicality. It is also how you get royally pissed off and how you demonstrate and do anger. It's how you will fight. And where it is in your chart, I don't even care what sign it is in. You know, if it's in Pisces, but it's in the 10th house, that's a very, very strong Mars, right? So we're not going to talk about the signs today. we're going to talk about the houses. And you can go back to my last 2 videos. This is the 3rd video that I'm doing on the houses. The houses are complex. And when you peel them back and you look inside, they are deep. They are like the well in which you will dive down into, right? So Mars also is your sexual desire. And if you're really interested in your Mars energy, I did a whole series, my Sexy Seduction series, about each sign in love. So Sagittarius in love, Scorpio in love, Pisces in love. I did each sign. Go check out that video if you really resonate with Mars energy, if you haven't already. And find your Mars sign and then go watch in that series, my Sexy Seduction series, in love series. Go watch the sign that relates not to your sun sign, but your Mars sign, because your Mars sign shows you how you will be seduced, how you can be seduced, how you do seduce. It will show you your sexual desire and your relationship to sexuality. And it's fascinating. By the way, if you don't know where your planets are, what houses or what signs, please go get one of my gorgeous natal charts. They're even more beautiful than the ones I have on my screen. I don't know why, but they wash out on my screen a little bit, but they are just vibrant and gorgeous. And you can buy it for $10 and you'll see where all of your planets are and in what houses. You'll love it. Just go to soulnavigation.com. The link is in the notes below and it says book a reading now, and it will take you to all the charts and all the reports that I do. But go get yourself a natal chart so you can know. Jupiter, wherever you have Jupiter is where you are going to be seriously exaggerated. So in whatever house it plays in, if you will, it sits in, this is where you're going to feel really, really exaggerated, really enormous, larger than life. There's a great nobility also with Jupiter. So you might feel like you know a lot, or you've got a lot going on in this house or in this arena. This is also your optimism and your enthusiasm. So when life is hard and you are just falling apart or crumbling, or you've just had the worst day of your life, the thing that can pick you back up again is Jupiter. Your optimism. It's restorative faith. It's the faith inside of you that you bounce back to after you have grieved. So having a strong Jupiter is very helpful when we've lost faith. It helps us regain faith, hope, optimism, excitement again. And, Jupiter is also the protector of the people through law. And this is where we have a very strong belief system. So if you have Jupiter rising, there's a strong value around a belief system that you probably adhere to. You're probably also a really exaggerated and optimistic person. You probably have a huge happiness factor. So if Jupiter isn't afflicted or negatively aspected in your chart too heavily, you probably are an optimistic person if it's well aspected, or if it's in one of those strong fire sign houses or angular houses that we talked about, right? Did you guys like that video where I showed you how to chunk out the chart? I thought it was really fun to do. So Saturn. Now, Saturn is a lot of things. It's karma, it governs time, but when it comes to the houses, wherever your Saturn is, this is where you may feel inadequate, you may feel weakened, you may feel incomplete. And this is the house that we need to work on bolstering up. This has a block or an obstacle in it, a wound of some sort, a mountain to climb. So the wound is more like a challenge presented to us that stifles us or holds us back or reins us in, because hard work is absolutely commanded and demanded of us in the house in which we have Saturn. Yeah, this is not a free space. This is not free parking in Monopoly. This is like pay your frickin' taxes, right? Like the one where it's like for every hotel and house you have to pay, $100 and people go bankrupt on that. Yeah, that's Saturn. It's like pay up, buddy. And it requires a lot of hard work, sweat equity, and oftentimes we can feel quite destroyed by where the placement of our Saturn is. So that house is the house in which You have to bring a lot of grit, sweat, and perseverance and like determination to not give up. So Uranus, wherever Uranus is, there's probably a couple things going on. First of all, it's radical. It's the rule breaker. It is going to do that house differently. It will not comply by the rules. This is where you will break rules. So if you have it in the second house, you are going to break rules around money. And you're going to break rules around the sort of the traditional way to build something. You're not going to roll through the alphabet A, B, C, D, E. Nope. You're not going to do it in the traditional form. You are going to mix it up. You're going to be innovative. You're probably going to have radical breakthroughs if you're brave enough to be different. This, wherever Uranus is, it's asking you in that arena to be very unique, progressive, and to create a breakthrough. Expect a breakthrough, want a breakthrough, be open to a breakthrough, be open to innovating a new system or structure that advances you. And I'll tell you, when it doesn't function well, it disrespects rules in a brash way. It's also, I will promise you this, wherever you have Uranus, you will have experienced trauma. And you will need to reinvent yourself in some way in order to get over that trauma. Neptune is so deep, I cannot do Neptune in a blurb. I did Neptune with my apprentice a while ago, and we talked for 4 to 6 hours on Neptune. Neptune is so enormous. It's like asking somebody to describe infinity. It is very deep. Wherever you have Neptune in your chart, I promise you more than one thing is going on. It is not straightforward. You will feel probably massively conflicted or confused. Like, let me talk to you about it this way. This is where you can over-idealize life, where you can be gullible, and you can be suckered into something. This is also where you have a naivete and a gullibility and an innocence and a pureness about you. And this is where you can acquire or see or experience sainthood. So you can also become a victim of that very sainthood. So let me give it to you in a couple metaphors. The first metaphor that I want to give it to you is think of the Christ figure, okay? I'm not talking religion. I'm talking just about the man, the figure, the story of Christ. He was both demonized, persecuted, victimized, resurrected, and then canonized. He became the saint or the God of all saints, right? So pure redemption. So look at how wherever Neptune is, there's going to be reverence and hatred. There's going to be probably something very sickening and something gloriously spiritual and pure. It's where you will have a spiritual awakening, but some people never get to the spiritual awakening part. So it can be quite destructive, but it can also be quite beautiful. It's paradoxical. We can become a slave and a victim to that which we idealize. I'll give you another metaphor. Marilyn Monroe had Neptune in the first house. She, the first house, was idolized, right? She was also quite innocent, truthfully, and gullible. She was also victimized. She was victimized by men, by her sexuality, I don't know, by Hollywood, by life itself. Her mother was schizophrenic or sociopathic, I can't remember, but institutionalized. And at 16 years old, her only way out was to get married. And she was a victim to this glamorous Neptunian oozing femininity and feminine power, but she became a slave, a servant, and a victim of it, and it ultimately destroyed her own life. So that's Neptune. Pluto is where you will have the psychological wound in your life. Wherever you have Pluto, you are going to suffer loss. You're going to suffer such devastating destruction. But through that destruction, like Neptune wants to bring a spiritual awakening, Pluto wants to bring forward the great transformation. There's a rebirth of your own identity when you are the phoenix that rises from the ash. Again, sometimes Pluto is so strong or debilitated in the chart, it just does you in and you don't get that rebirth in this lifetime. You have to wait till the next lifetime, or the rebirth is done in heaven. But this is where you will have enormous transformation, usually through loss, death, divorce, destruction. And so Pluto can bring upon great pain. If you have Pluto in the second house, I would be surprised if you didn't have some sort of bankruptcy, either your own personal value, you became a bankrupt person around your value system became bankrupt, or your money did, or love in some way did, or your security, you became very, very insecure in your life, either through money or love or self-esteem. And that occurs and happens if you have Pluto in the second house, in order for you to rise up and overcome all of that. So now let's talk about the houses, okay? Now I want to put Kobe's chart up here for you, and I got his birth time from a source online. I don't know if it's accurate, but it said 5 p.m. And that's from not a birth, like a birth certificate, but a birth record from a friend. So it gives him Capricorn rising. Now, the first thing I want to tell you is that empty houses are not empty, okay? They're not empty. They're on remote control, like I said in my last video. So every house is ruled by a planet, but sometimes it's ruled by a planet on remote control. And you need to know your planetary rulers. If you feel confused about this, go watch the video that I just did prior to this one, and I talked to you a lot about the chart rulers. Let's talk about this for a minute. So when you have planets in the first house, now I have to break this up into two different kinds of planets. There's personal planets, and then there's the outer planets, and every planet does something different. The house is going to show you the arena in which that planet in whatever sign wants to, or feels most alive or comfortable in. Your personal planets, those affect you personally, and they define you. They define you at a very deep and personal and unique level. And that's going to be your sun sign, your moon sign, your Mercury, your Venus, and your Mars. Now, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are generational planets. Now, hold on. Everybody born in 1976, most likely, is going to have the same outer planets. Those are generational planets. Now, that's why the houses are so important. So my girlfriend and I, who are born 2 weeks apart, we have the same exact Pluto. We also have the same sun sign, and we have the same Venus, and we have the same Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. But what makes us so dramatically different is our same planets that operate similarly are in different houses. And that's why she has an interest in finance and I have an interest in intuition. Okay? So we have the exact same Mercury, but hers is in the house of analytics and mine is in the house of psychic awareness. And that's why we're good together. So that's why it's so important. Right now, don't focus on the sign. Just focus on the planet and the house, because it will tell you 50% of what the heck is going on with you. Wait till you see this. So using Kobe's chart, I'm going to light up the houses for you, just like magic, like bing. Okay. So the first house, if you have personal planets, now don't forget personal planets. This is your sun. This is your moon. This is your Mercury. This is Mars and Venus. So if you have I'll say it to you two ways. If you have personal planets, or if you have a ton of planets. So let's say you have one personal planet, your Venus, and then all the outer planets, and they're all in the first house. That's a big first house. So if you have a lot of planets, that's a lot of energy, right? Or like in Kobe's chart, he only has one planet in the fourth, but it's his moon sign. It's the deepest part of him. So it's enormous. The sun and moon are going to be enormous. They're going to illuminate those houses to a gargantuan degree. If you have 3 planets or more, that's called a stellium, and that is also extraordinarily powerful, especially if there's personal planets in the stellium, like Kobe's 9th house. You can also see that the houses are all different sizes. That's because I don't do whole house. I don't do a whole house system. I don't do equal house. And I use Placidus. It's my favorite house system. You should experience or experiment with Coke, Placidus, and Porphyry and see what you like. I love Placidus. I just find more accuracy with it, but see what speaks to you. So if you have a lot of personal planets, or even one personal planet, or a stellium, or a big first house, that's how I'm going to talk about it going around the circle. You are here. You are born. I don't care what sign it is in. It doesn't matter if it's Gemini or Virgo. So when you leave me a comment below, and please do, don't tell me the sign. Just tell me the planet in the house, the planet in the house, the planet in the house, okay? The planet in the house. I got my sun in the first. I got my sun in the 9th. I got my sun in the 7th, right? It doesn't matter to me right now what sign it's in, because I'm going to know so much about you just by the house. That's why, I told the little person in my life who's a Cancer, I told her, don't you ever talk about yourself as just a Cancer, right? No, you are a 9th house Cancer, and that's a totally different kind of Cancer. That's radically different than just Cancer. So it's really important. It's kind of like this. It's like if you're a singer, right? And you have a great voice. That's awesome. But the house will tell me what kind of music you sing. That's what the house tells me. So, do you sing ballads? Do you sing rock and roll? Do you sing country? So if you have a big first house, or your sun or your moon, you're born with a really big influence over others. These people have a big pop. So, they cannot go unnoticed. They would make the worst spy in the world, probably, unless they've got Pluto there, because they're blindingly big. And they're here to forge their own identity and make something very prominent about themselves and their life. They are here to literally do something with their life. They are the born influencers. So if you have a first house sun, the shadow side, and I always like to give you kind of the dark side, is that you can be totally self-obsessed. And it can be very hard for you to get out of your own agenda, your own desires, your own wants, your own energy. I have a love in my life that is Pisces rising, but he has Mars and Aries in the first. And he just can't even help it. He dominates every conversation he talks in. One, he's fascinating as all get out, and everybody wants to listen to him, but his voice has become so prominent and so profound, and his presence, it's almost like when he's missing from the party, the vitality of the party has diminished. So first house, they share with you when they're evolved. They share their vitality. They share their larger than life spirit and energy and zest for life, their adventure. These are very courageous souls that are really meant to be out there. They are large and in charge and on the front line. They are here to go first and to pioneer a new way, blaze the trail for others. They are the guide with the machete, right? Creating the path. Yeah. So they can be obnoxious, if they have too many planets there, tell me what planets you have in the first house. And if they're loud planets, like, Uranus, Mars, those are boom, boom. Those are people who are just enormous energies. They almost cannot be tamed, cannot be controlled, cannot be put into a cage. They are big influencers. Now, go back to what I told you about what the different planets mean. And if you have Neptune in the first, go back to what I said about Neptune. And then I want you to know that this house with Neptune in it, Marilyn Monroe, is going to become quite idealized and victimized, right? Quite dreamy, and then you get done in by the dream. Neptune is very paradoxical. If Saturn is there, we have an obstacle to overcome about ourselves. If you've got the moon there, this is somebody who is leading with emotional courage. If you have the sun there, this is somebody who is leading with identity and essence of self. This is somebody who is such a vital energy, right? So you have to blend the meaning of the planet. If you have Mercury there, I once was with a man who had Mercury on the ascendant in the first. Oh my God, his mind would not stop. It was just a force to be reckoned with. It was just, to be quite honest, it was just actually exhausting. And I'm already like that. And if you can imagine somebody doing that to me, it's like, holy hell. That's a lot of freaking mental energy. Okay, so if you have a lot of planets in the second house, what are those second house planets asking of you? They are asking you to develop a sense of strength and fortitude. They are asking you to develop a sense of confidence and nobility. They are asking you to step into a calm, centered authority, to have the courage to create sustainability, to build something, to grow something. If you have a second house sun, you've got to build something, to feel good about yourself. You're here to gain through the material world as well, through money. And, if they come from their shadow side, they're a little showy and flashy with their money. They like to wear the best thing or have the best thing or have the big house or have the fancy car. They need the external world to show a material gain that they have built for themselves, because that's where they get pride. So it can be, every house can manifest obnoxious planets, but it can be obnoxious, or it can also just be admirable. Like, wow, they're self-made. They really built something, and they deserve that palace or that mansion or those beautiful shoes, or I don't know, the Chanel handbag or whatever the thing is that you like. Think about if you have Saturn there. That's going to be your lesson, right? Think about if you have Pluto there. I already talked about that. You probably have a bankruptcy in your life. Think about if you have Neptune there. You probably have so many illusions and delusions and around money. And, you probably believe in it and idealize it, and then you get lost with it, and then it becomes your demise, and right? So you're getting it. Tell me you're getting it. Tell me what planet you have in the second. Don't tell me the sun sign, just tell me the planet or planets. If you have personal planets or a lot of planets or a stellium in the third house, these people, these planets, this part of you, this could be, your heart, your soul, your identity, your mind, your voice. You have to be heard. This placement, any planets in the third house, that's how you learn. That's how you talk. And this is also the part of you that is wanting to develop your own perspective and your own thoughts. These planets are asking you to strengthen your intellect, your intellectual knowledge, your ability to be rational, logical, pragmatic, and well thought out. These planets are begging you to learn how to communicate. So if you have Mars there, you will be a ferocious communicator, negotiator, debater. And, because Mars is the way you'll fight, you'll learn how to fight with your words too. You might be an intellectual fighter. These planets will show you the pieces of you that feel the most alive when you're exchanging ideas, when you're in an exchange of ideas, because the third house wants to learn. So if you have your moon there, oh, it is such a deep need. It is the deepest need inside of you to communicate, learn, and exchange ideas, right? You also know that this is a very fast moving house. So this house has a lot of energy in it, just a tremendous amount of energy. Remember, the first house and that fourth house and that seventh house and that 10th house are angular houses. So they bring a pop. And you remember the succeedent houses build, right? The third house and the ninth house and the 12th house and the sixth house, I'm sorry, third, sixth, 9, and 12, those houses are always moving. So if you have a lot of planets in the third house, you might feel like you have ADD. You probably don't. You just have an adrenaline rush, a perpetual adrenaline rush. Do you sleep? If you have a lot of third house planets, tell me, do you sleep? If you have your Mars in the third house, you probably just go, and then crash. Tell me what planets you have in the third. Now, if you have a lot of planets in the fourth or important planets in the fourth, those are your personal planets. So if you have Venus there, if you have Mars there, Mercury there, the moon there, or the sun there, and we can see that Kobe Bryant has his moon in the fourth house. So these people are here to develop a very, very deep soul growth. And if you don't know who Kobe Bryant is, please leave a note below and let me know. And hopefully one of my subscribers, one of my followers, will either link something about Kobe, or maybe I should just put a link in. I'll put a link about who Kobe is in my notes, or somebody else, some generous, lovely soul can link it up for you so you can know. But it's true. He had deep soul spirit. And he played the game of basketball with a deep soul about him, a soulful way. And your fourth house planets are here valuing the internal exploration of self far more than the external. They could give two flying squirrels about the external world. They don't care. They are in the depth of the soul of self. And so they can also value family so deeply that they even forget, this is their shadow side, to develop self. They can forget to develop themselves as an individual outside of their family, so they can get stuck in their tribe, their clan, their family. They can end up doing their family's bidding their whole life long, and their family can become quite dependent on them, or they can become quite dependent on family, never being able to leave. I mean, do you have a packed fourth house, and is that true? Also, they love tradition, and they need a home, to a beautiful home, or a home that expresses their internal needs in order to plant roots to build a life. Also, children are very important to fourth house people. With Kobe's moon in the fourth house, we know that he is a deeply, deeply, deeply feeling soul. We're not even going to talk about Taurus, but we know moon in the fourth, this man has to have a home that will nurture him. And two, he has to have a family. He has to have a family. He won't know the depth of his soul's calling without family. He died with his family. He died with the person he created. That's deep. The moon in the fourth is gorgeous. The moon loves the fourth house. Remember, the fourth house, the natural zodiacal wheel, talks about the fourth house being owned by Cancer, and Cancer is ruled by the moon. So the moon is just so exalted here, so thrilled to be here, so at home in its own home. So when you get your planet, you get the planetary ruler inside its natural zodiacal happy place, it is thrilled. And I'm not talking sign, I'm only talking planet. So The fourth house is naturally ruled by the moon, and Kobe has it there, and he did grow an absolutely extraordinary, I mean extraordinary family. If you don't know about his children and his wife, you should. The fifth house. So if you have personal planets in the fifth house, or if you have a packed fifth house, I kind of consider, this is a very playful house, but I consider this the house of fun, love, sex, romance, play, gambling. It's like the trampoline. And I really see this house as a Broadway stage. So the fifth house, these people have got to find a way to put themselves on a stage of some sort. They need to come alive in a way that makes them feel good about being alive. These people seek fun, goodness. They have to have good vibrations. They cannot deal with depression. And they are expansive energies. They are usually, like the first house, they become sort of the center of their own universe. They are here to find their own creative self-expression. Oftentimes, if you have a fifth house person, you have somebody who is in the arts or doing art or music or performing in some way, shape, or form. And it might not be traditional. It could just be they're great at sound bowls, you know, but they have kind of a magical, entertaining quality about them. They are the great entertainers, and they are the fun makers, and they need hobbies, they need recreation, they need games, they oftentimes are athletic, they love sporting events. Usually they love anything that has a celebratory feeling to it, and they're here to sort of create celebrations. Also, the fifth house rules children. So people who have a lot of personal planets, the moon, the sun, Venus there, or Mars, they oftentimes are hungry to have children, or they are the perpetual child for the rest of their lives, the fountain of youth, if you will. They have a lot of youthful energy. The sixth house. Now, the sixth house, I find that if you have your personal planets there, you're probably a workaholic, and you probably like it. You get your identity from working really freaking hard. And you have, and if you have Jupiter there, but no other planet, you're probably a workaholic, because remember, whatever Jupiter touches, it exaggerates that house just tenfold. It's where you have an exaggerated need. So these people, if you have sixth house personal planets or a stellium in the sixth house, you are going to come alive. You are going to need, want, and desire to perfect a daily routine of work that becomes tremendously useful to the world or to others. In a way, it's developing a work or developing a way of life or a system or a routine that allows yourself to be in service to others. Now, people with a lot of planets in the sixth house also have a relationship to perfectionism and self-mastery. So they oftentimes are on the quest for perfecting or improving or creating a mastery of sorts. And it could be, I don't know, a master jewelry maker. But they also value health and wellness, and they will ultimately refine the art of daily life and daily living. They will be a protege, and after 36 years old, they start to mentor. They evolve into the mentor. You know, they slip away from being the servant after they've been the apprentice for so long, and then they become the true Michelangelo. And oftentimes, if you have sixth house planets, you also have fifth house planets. So if you have a lot of fifth and sixth, you can become the Michelangelos, you know, the perfecting of the artistry. The seventh house is the house of paradox. You know, it goes like this, right? And it's on the angle, so it's very powerful. But these people, especially if you have your sun there, if you have your moon there, if you have your Venus there, this is especially true, but they find their identity pretty much only inside of partnership with another. So they find themselves through partnership with other. They do contrast learning. So I know that I am outgoing only because you show me, you whom I'm in relationship with, that you're not, right? I only know that I'm an extrovert because you show me what it means to be an introvert. And if you didn't show me what it meant to be an introvert, I wouldn't know I was an extrovert. So this is the house of finding your preferences, learning what your preferences are through knowing what they're not, through relating to other people. And in this lifetime, if you have a stellium here or a lot of planets here, or your Jupiter, you know, it's going to be about building alliances, building supportive alliances, knowing who your friends are and who your enemies are. And not dependency, but learning how to collaborate, learning how to do partnership, learning how to do union, learning how to do marriage. You will discover yourself and the truth about yourself through the vehicle of another person. Again, these people in the shadow side will become codependents. But if they're healthy, these people will not do life alone, but they can understand who they are as an individual separate from the other. However, they do better inside the collaboration, their individual selves in collaboration in a dance with another. So they are here to learn how to do partner dancing, not just dance on the dance floor by themselves. Okay, the 8th house, this is the deepest house. The 4th house is pretty damn deep. So is the 12th. But I want you to think of the 8th house as the most intimate house. A lot of people say the 7th house is your marriage, and I talk about it that way too because it is the union, but it is not the intimacy inside the union. So the 7th house is the decision to get married, the decision to be in partnership, the decision to do life together. And we walk down the aisle, we say I do, we love each other, we are good collaborators together in life, and we make a great team. But it is not our intimacy. If you want to see the intimacy of your life, you've got to go to the 8th house. The 8th house is, who will you take a bath with? How many people will you take a bath with? Are you going to take a bath with me? I doubt it. Who are you going to take a bath with? You're not going to take a bath with somebody who you're fond of, but don't know deeply, right? It's so intimate. So that's why the 8th house is the house of sexuality, but it is also the house of death. Who do you want there with you when you take your last breath on earth? So people who have personal planets, your sun or your moon, your Mars, maybe your Venus even, but definitely your sun or your moon, especially the sun and the moon, they have incarnated into this lifetime. I don't care what sign it is in. It could be in, I don't know, happy-go-lucky Gemini. It doesn't matter. To create deep, deep intimacy with self and with others, to know thyself so deeply, to understand the darkness that lives inside of them as well as the light. And the vehicle, the stage, the arena that their transformation will take place is through death, divorce, and loss. And it's through these losses, these goodbyes, if you will, that their soul will transform, that their soul will probably have an existential awakening, that they will understand the meaning of life, that will help them transcend to the highest, best version of themselves. Now, a lot of 8th house suns and moons are redefined by tragedy. So look at Kobe Bryant's chart again. He has his sun there. You know, his soul probably had many transformations. I think it did, because he was a poet, he was a writer, he was a romantic, he was, you know, one of the world's greatest athletes. And he was on a quest. He was on a quest around the meaning of life. Now, he also has obstacles there too. Remember, I told you Saturn is where your Achilles heel will be. So the eighth house, you know, his Achilles is in the house of death. And his death was a tragedy. It woke the world up. And his Mercury is very creative in Leo. We're not going to talk about the signs, but it's also in the eighth house. So he went where other people couldn't go, because the eighth house is also the house of taboo. And it is the house in which you are willing to explore the mysteries of life and all that is hidden. And he started to do that. He really was developing his soul, especially after basketball. It was beautiful. I didn't talk about his Jupiter in the seventh, but look how popular he was, right? He was a collaborator with the world. And when you have Jupiter in the seventh, you usually will have, you know, you'll know yourself in relationship to others at an exaggerated level. And so I think that he had this exaggerated fame, this exaggerated relationship with people. Now, I would call him an eighth house stellium and a ninth house stellium. So the eighth and the ninth house are absolutely critical. Are they more critical than the fourth? No. But I would say that this chart is very heavy on the eighth and ninth and fourth house themes. And the seventh house is exaggerated. So we can see who he is just by the house placements. We know his family is critical. We know that he has larger than life fame, seventh house, popular with people, right? Probably really had to come to understand who he was by knowing who he wasn't. That happened. And that happened also through an affair that he had, the seventh house. But he always loved his wife deeply, and he had a lot of intimacy in his life with his beautiful wife. Intimacy, and I mean, like, I'm not just talking sex. I'm talking about like raw intimacy. So the ninth house, you know, these people come alive through developing a global perspective, through developing a perspective that is way larger than themselves. They want to understand the world. They want to understand culture. They want to understand people through travel, through imagination, through philosophy, and through reading. They love reading. And oftentimes people with large ninth house become published authors, or they become video documentary producers, film producers. They put their belief system out there in a format which can be accessible to the larger world. They are here to develop a greater knowledge through teaching and through writing, and oftentimes through publishing or large exposure. I don't consider this publishing, you know, YouTube, but in a modern way, it might be considered that. This might be the modern book, you know. So what was interesting about Kobe is he loved the book that he wrote and the film that he produced around the book, which gave a lot of inspiration. The ninth house is also the most inspiring house. The fifth house is very engaging, and it is very happy. It's the house of happiness, but so is the ninth house. The ninth and the fifth are just the houses of happiness. The ninth house has this optimism and this inspiration and this like enormity to it. And it has a playfulness to it, but it is the house of the wise teacher. And Kobe once said that he never knew the level of joy that he would find in teaching, coaching, I guess securing, building, growing, nurturing, teaching, coaching girls basketball and his daughter's basketball team. It's just so sad to think that they died together, and that whole team lost both Kobe and his daughter. But what's interesting is he becomes, one of the world's greatest basketball players, and he's phenomenal at it. And at some point, that no longer gave him his juice, probably because he has Mars in the ninth. Mars is your life force energy. The ninth house, is in search of the Holy Grail. It is in search of the philosophical truth of mankind. When I say mankind, though, I'm not talking 11th house mankind, humanitarian, Aquarius mankind. I'm talking about global perspectives and cultural differences and sort of the law of being human. It's understanding maybe the philosophical truths about the human instinct. And with ninth house Mars, you are going to be in a restless and constant global pursuit of the truth. The truth, not your truth, the philosophical truth that lies in every person, every human, the universal global truth that makes us the same and yet different. And the ninth house also governs sort of the laws of mankind, womankind, mankind. So please don't take offense. Let's talk about the 10th house. The 10th house is a house that I had misunderstood for years in my practice. I didn't misunderstand it in a way that I didn't talk about it accurately or honestly. I just did not understand the modern and extraordinary impact of this house. So I have coined this house Beethoven's house, but most astrologers talk about this as your place in society or your career. And if you have a packed 10th house, you were born to be extraordinary. You were born to stand in the spotlight. Remember, don't forget, it's an angular house, like the first, the fourth, and the seventh. So this house has so much torque and so much power. People who have a strong 10th house are going to be tied up with seeking and desiring, or they'll just be placed upon them, these professional achievements. Great achievement wants to happen if you've got a big 10th house. Now with Kobe, we've got Uranus there, right? We'd say he has a big 9th house. So I talked about that. With Kobe, he has Uranus in the 10th house. So what is he going to do? He's not going to play by the rules when it comes to his career, nor did he. He became a poet. He wrote poetry. He became a book author. Show me another NBA player that wrote the depth of the soul's work that he wrote and could write in a way that would make you cry. I'm not talking autobiography. He did not play by the rules. And then he went on to coach women's basketball. So most of those players go coach men's basketball. Nope. So he's not going to play. And then he gave kids who didn't have opportunities. And he was cute. One of the best things he ever did, like a good Capricorn rising, is he was so self-deprecating in his humor. Like he can poke fun of himself, and it's really, really stinking cute. And I'll tell you, I wasn't even a big Kobe fan, but I learned about him late in life, and like just prior to his death. So I never really appreciated him while he lived on Earth. So don't think that I'm over here as a big Kobe fan. Although now I kind of am, and especially looking at his chart, I love it. But if you have a big 10th house, you have a huge emanating power about you and a strength, and you are here to become the authority in your own life. You have to break the chains. You have to leave, you have to leave submission behind, and you're here to become recognized or renowned. I call it Beethoven's house because I've used this example maybe too many times. Tell me if I've said my Beethoven analogy too many times, but I figure you don't watch all my videos. But it's like Beethoven did not clock into a 9 to 5 job. But if you and I, and it doesn't matter if you're living in China or Madagascar or Galangal or Australia or Europe or South America or Brazil, it doesn't matter, or Seattle, you can find Beethoven's work right now on the internet, on your phone, in the library. It doesn't matter. You can go find Beethoven's work right now, hundreds of years after he lived. So I call this Beethoven's house because if you have a packed 10th house, you're here to build a legacy. What is a legacy? It's the thing that lives on for years and years and years in its importance and in its value after you have left Earth School. Okay, the 11th house. The 11th house, if you have a large 11th house, you have a sense of the world that is much bigger than yourself. This is the house of the humanitarian. This is also the house of collective minds. And so your soul, your mission, your journey will be played out through attaching to groups and organizations that are of like mind. And you're here to, you probably crave connection. You crave learning, you crave friendships. But you're here to advance humanity or advance your world in some way, shape, or mind, but you do it through having an open mind and an open heart. 11th house souls are the most open mind, with the 3rd house being next. But the 11th house souls are the most open-minded souls of the entire zodiac, and they are here to teach that. They are here to teach an acceptance. They are here to help, again, mankind understand collective truth. And they need a big, big reason to live. 11th house souls want a big cause and a big purpose. They usually, or they can be easily, an activist. So if you don't have any planets there, but maybe you have Jupiter there, you might be a very big spokesperson for a group that believes in you, or for a mission, or for a cause like Habitat for Humanity, or PAWS, or animal, protection, or something. There is a desire in you that wants life and the world and humanity to especially those that have been forgotten or eradicated, to benefit, to improve, to be better because of you. So the 11th house really does help. I think they're dream makers in a lot of ways. They're dream makers, and they might be erratic and lost, and they don't do just one thing their whole life. They might have their hands in multiple honeypots, because they're highly evolved too. The planets that you have in the 11th house, they're sort of progressive and evolved planets. So if you have your moon there, you probably have an advanced EQ. You're not going to find that in a book. I have just found that myself. So the 12th house. The 12th house is a big esoteric house. It is enormous. And with the planets here, the ego will learn to become the servant. The ego will learn to become the servant of the soul. And that's usually not simple. It can be very deep and very painful and very alienating, because, think of teenage culture. If you go to high school and you have all this typical teenage pressure here in the United States, wherever you live, and you have a 12th house soul, your ego doesn't want to play that teenage culture game. And it doesn't know how to not play it, because it still has to survive, but it doesn't want to play it. So it feels very alienated. The planets here, especially if they're personal planets, they want to learn the oneness of all living creatures, and it goes beyond mankind. It now goes into plants and animals, and it goes into the vibration of crystals. It goes into the vibration of water, of all of life. And so it is gargantuan. So I love this quote, and I want to read it to you. Howard Sasportas, he's wonderful. He has a great book on the houses. I love him. Howard. Find anything he's written and buy it. He's wonderful. He wrote this. This is, and it was so poignant. I couldn't remember it, so I had to write it down, and I wanted to give him credit. So planets in the 12th house. People with big 12th houses basically need to learn how to straddle the borders between the personal and the universal, the conscious and the unconscious, and the individual ego and the collective self. The collective self is all of us. He also says the personal ego needs to be flexible enough to allow entry to these elements, and yet not so weak that they become overwhelmed by them. A large 12th house is going to give you the deepest, most profound spiritual awakening, or the opportunity for it. You will have the opportunity to shed the ego and become a vessel of pure divine love. You have a psychic channel and the ability to develop divine communication like no other. So the 12th house planets, they're hard to grab onto. They're esoteric in nature, but know that they come begging you and asking you to experience, to fulfill, to put out there into the world the meaning of pure grace. I hope you liked this video. I hope you got a lot out of it. If you don't know where your planets are, if you want to learn more, go buy my deep natal report. It will tell you all about your houses and the signs and mix it all together. I hope so much you love this series. And I might do one more with now the signs in the houses. Let me know what you would like, and let me know whose chart you want me to look at for next time. I hope you are wonderful. From my house to yours, take good care. I wish you the best.